like extracurriculars are maybe the most difficult to navigate. They're probably just going to put you in the waitlist or reject pile if they don't understand you or what you are actually trying to achieve. That's what I will bring with me to UW, my fiery passion and dedication to what I believe in. Hey everyone, welcome to my long-awaited Getting into College Stats video. If this background looks familiar, it is because I actually filmed in this exact same spot for my full college decisions video. And if you haven't watched that already, go watch it because this video is kind of to explain how I got into the colleges I did, rejected from the colleges, waitlisted, and of course the scholarships that I earned. So this video will combine my academics, my extracurriculars, my essays, and then of course my general advice for how to get into these colleges and what I would have done differently if I could go back. So just to start off, I have maybe my biggest piece of general advice for college apps, and that would be that your application needs to make sense. And by that I mean everything should kind of fit together in a way. It's probably not new information to anyone watching this, but college is so competitive now because there are just so many applicants. And so people who are reading your essays and your applications are just kind of going through like that because there are just so many applicants that they don't have a ton of time to read over everyone's individual application. So as a kind of solution to that, your application needs to be very easy to read, and people should read it and think, oh yeah, that makes sense. Your extracurriculars and your academics should show what subjects you're interested in. And no, that doesn't mean just one subject, but they should kind of fit together and tell the person reading your application more about who you are. Because the last thing that people reading these applications want is a confusing one. Because if they have questions, they're not going to reach out and ask you them. They're probably just going to put you in the waitlist or reject pile if they don't understand you or what you are actually trying to achieve. And so I hope that you guys know what I mean when I say that they should all kind of complement each other and make sense with what you are saying that you want to do at that college, majoring, minoring, and your application overall. With that, we will hop into my academic statistics. So colleges mainly look at your cumulative GPA between your freshman, sophomore, and junior year, because when you're applying, that's going to be kind of at the beginning and middle-ish of your senior year. And so most colleges are not going to be looking at your senior year GPA in order to determine if they want to accept you or not. So when I say cumulative GPA, I really mean just my first 3 years of high school, excluding my senior year. And colleges will look at your unweighted and weighted. It kind of depends on the university, but I would say that your weighted has the most leverage because it also kind of shows how much rigor you put into your courses. So my cumulative GPA for my freshman, sophomore, and junior year was a 3.69, which might actually be surprising to some people because I know that UW's average GPA is a lot higher. But I think that with the rest of my application, overall, my coursework and everything else, it kind of balances out. If you're curious, even though it didn't really contribute much to my college decision, my overall weighted GPA for high school, I think was about a 4.0, maybe leaning a little bit more towards a 4.1, just because my senior year, I took a lot of rigorous courses, and they boosted my GPA a lot. I know that a lot of colleges will prioritize your GPA over everything, but a lot of colleges also won't. And what's a super important factor for pretty much every college is the rigor of your coursework. So you don't want to have a 4.0 GPA if it means that you didn't take any honors, AP, or IB courses. For my school, we run on the AP and honors system. So I did not take any IB classes, and I honestly don't know that much about IB, so I probably can't provide the best general advice for IB. So overall in high school, I took 7 AP courses and 3 honors courses, and that includes all 4 years of high school. Even though colleges don't really take your senior year GPA into consideration as much, they do look at how much you're challenging yourself senior year and what kind of courses you're taking. So don't completely fall off and take really easy courses senior year, because that can be a factor in some colleges' decisions as well. For my school, we actually were not allowed to take any AP courses as freshmen, so I was starting AP from my sophomore year. So with that in mind, to run through my coursework rigor over the years, my freshman year I took honors freshman English, which was the highest English that my school had. And then for my sophomore year, I took AP World History and honors sophomore English, which again was the highest level of English at that point that was offered to me. And then for my junior year, I kind of increased the rigorous coursework even more because I took AP English Lang, AP Psychology, and AP US History. And then my senior year, to top it off, I took AP Government, AP Macroeconomics, AP English Lit, and Honors Gov and Politics. So this actually brings me to another point that colleges really like to see in applications, and that is an upward trend in GPA and an upward trend in rigorous coursework. So if you start off super insane sophomore year or freshman year and you take a ton of rigorous courses and you have a super high GPA, but you get really burnt out junior year and don't take as many rigorous courses and don't have as good of a GPA, colleges do notice that. And I would say it's definitely better to start off with a few courses sophomore year or freshman year and then work your way up through your junior and senior year. Junior year is generally when colleges expect to see the most challenging coursework and the highest GPA and like the most focus on grades, because that's also generally when you take SAT and ACT and your last year before you apply to these colleges. So your junior year, I would say, should definitely be the most focused on rigorous coursework and grades and academics in general. That being said, I definitely think that this was something I used to my advantage in my application, because even though I was not allowed to take any APs as a freshman and I only took one honors course, I believe that continuously going up in how much I challenged myself with my courses is definitely something that helped me and that colleges really generally liked about my application. AP and honors courses are generally seen as college level coursework, and so colleges really want to see that you're ready for the kind of coursework that they can provide and that you're ready to be in their university, especially if it is a top university and a really hard one to get into, because they want to see that you can actually handle all of the stress and pressure of college. My general grades were mostly A's, and the B's that I did get were mostly in those AP courses, while my A's were in my regular level courses and some of my honors courses as well. And to actually clarify a little bit on my coursework, I said that senior year I took AP Macroeconomics, AP Government, and Honors Gov and Politics. Those 3 courses are actually kind of one course at my school. I took We the People, which is a nationwide competitive civics program class. So if your school offers We the People, I know that a lot of schools don't, I would very much recommend taking it. I love the program, but it also looks good on your college resume. And so yes, with all of my previous AP histories with AP World and AP US History, I think that continuation was good for my college application. And in general, continuation is very good. As I've talked about my English and history APs and honors courses, you'll see that I focused a lot on the humanities and those 2 subjects and just really took the highest level of coursework and continued to challenge myself in those. And again, I think that that's a very good thing to have on your college application. I know that there was a comment on my college decisions video asking what majors I applied to the colleges that I did for. And just to answer that and give a little bit of context for this, I applied to some schools as a linguistics major and some schools as an English major. And at UW, I actually hope to double major in both of those. So my focus on humanities and English and history, I think really helped colleges see that I was very dedicated to what I want my major to be, and what I'm interested in pursuing. Okay, I've been talking about academics for a while, and obviously that's not all there is to a college application, so I will end off by saying my SAT and ACT score. Now, I know a lot of colleges aren't requiring that right now. However, some top colleges are starting to bring those requirements back. I would really recommend taking the SAT and ACT if that's possible. Personally, I would recommend the ACT for people who are more like English and humanities suited, because I felt that highlighted those strengths more, whereas the SAT focuses a little bit more on math. So choose accordingly. I took both, so my SAT score was a 1260 and my ACT score was a 28. And generally, I believe that my ACT score is considered a little bit better, which I am definitely not surprised about because I think that my strengths are more suited to writing and English. And the last thing I will say about academics is I know that a lot of schools kind of have a preference for how many years of a foreign language that they want you to take. I took 3 high school years. And so when colleges mean years, they're typically talking about high school years. And so if you took 2 years in middle school, like if you took like Spanish 1A or in Spanish 1B, that counts as 1 high school year. So for me, I took 2 middle school years of language and 2 high school years of language, which would add up to 3 high school years, and I took French. For UW specifically, because I know that some of the people watching really want to go to UW, I did read that UW strongly prefers 4 years of language. So I would really, really recommend that you try to achieve that if you are applying to UW. However, if you don't have room in your schedule or you already made your decisions to not take 4 years of language, it's okay, don't worry too much. I only took 3 high school years and somehow I still got in. So don't worry too much about that. That's just my advice for if it's possible, I would take 4 years of a language. And you can see that my academics kind of are already building this story about me, about how my strengths are in humanities and English and history, and that makes sense with my linguistics and English majors. And then, as I mentioned before, building up throughout high school of rigorous coursework and GPA is very much something that colleges emphasize, and that would be my general academics advice. Okay, extracurriculars time. So again, these should kind of make sense with your academics and highlight your strengths. However, I feel like extracurriculars are maybe the most difficult to navigate out of the college apps because a lot of extracurriculars are overused, and a lot of extracurriculars that people think are so impressive and that show so much about them are actually ones that colleges are kind of lukewarm on now because a lot of stuff is overdone. Now, if there is one extracurricular that I believe helped me stand out when people were reading my application, it is an organization I founded in my sophomore year that fights against sexual harassment, not only at my school, but in my entire school district. Not only was this a major extracurricular on my applications, but I also wrote a lot of my essays around it. It was a big part of my Common App personal statement, as well as being the topic of a lot of supplemental essays that I submitted for the colleges I applied to. So I founded it my sophomore year when events centering sexual harassment were happening a lot at my school, and it was becoming such a huge issue that I just decided to do a protest. And after that, it kind of formed into this organization that I continued to lead throughout my sophomore, junior, and senior years. However, because I know some people really want to start passion projects and don't know what to do it on, or are just trying to find something that will make them look good to colleges, it's important to clarify that I did this because I was so fired up by the things happening at my school and I was so angry, and I really wanted to feel safe at my school, and I really didn't at the time. And so I really, really recommend if you're looking for a passion project or you want to start one and you don't know what to do, I would recommend finding something that not only you're interested in, but that is also holds really important value to you. Because I did not start this for college apps, and I really think that's something that helped this stand out. This wasn't a way to like make money or a way to kind of be like, hey, here's how much work I did. It was honestly something that just held such close value to my morals and what my personal life values are. And so if you are looking for something, I would recommend doing that, because I think that passion ends up being very prominent in your writing. And so that I think really helps your essays and kind of helps you stand out a little bit more, because it's made clear that you're doing this because you really want to and not for college, which is really what colleges want. For the people wondering, what about clubs? I was the officer of Russian Literature Club for my junior and senior year. And then I also was in my school's magazine club, where I wrote articles for also my junior and senior year. And my other extracurriculars included about 6 months of paid work during my junior year. And then I tutored 2 girls from Korea in English when they first moved to America during the summer between my junior year and senior year. Out of those extracurriculars, my main essay point was, again, as I mentioned, that organization fighting sexual harassment. But I also brought up that tutoring experience because it really shaped me wanting to become an English major even more, and also, you know, finding my passions and what I wanted to study in college, as well as what I wanted to pursue in my life. So it's important to highlight that my extracurriculars and my essays are what I believe helped me the most in my applications and what made me stand out the most. Because even though I did well in my academics, my school and my area are very, very competitive. And so I knew that that wasn't what was going to help me stand out. So I really tried to focus on my essay writing when I was applying to colleges. And then I was very thankful that I had a focus on my extracurriculars as well, especially for UW, because again, I know that a lot of people watching this are probably wanting to apply to UW. When I went to my tour at UW right before my senior year, they really emphasized leadership and extracurriculars and essays over academics. Obviously, UW being a top school, you still need good academics, so still focus on those. But your extracurriculars and essays should also be a focal point in your application if you are applying to UW, in my personal opinion. But I believe that my extracurriculars and my essays kind of helped get me into UW more than my academics did, because my academics are a little bit below UW's usual standards, especially for out of state, because I don't want to discourage anyone, but out of state for UW was absolutely insane this year. I heard it was like 20%. So yeah, I think that my extracurriculars and my essays were really my saving grace, since I had academics that weren't quite up to those standards. So let's move into the essays. It's important to note that there are a lot of people that can help you with your essays and with your applications. I know that it is very popular, if you want to get into these top schools, for people to hire someone to help them with their applications or help them just with their essays. And for me, I did not have someone help me with my application, but I just did have someone look over my essays and kind of give me pointers and tips. And something that she encouraged me to do, which I found very helpful, was to think about 4 main topics. If you watched my college decisions video, you would know that a lot of my applications were to the UCs and California schools. And for the UCs, they require you to write 4 main essays because they do not use the Common App and they will not see your Common App personal statement. And because I was going to apply to the UCs as well as other schools through Common App, I actually started with the UC essays because the person that was looking over my essays actually pointed out that if I started with the UC essays, I would find those 4 main topics I wanted to write about, and I could use those topics I had already figured out to help me write my Common App essays and supplemental essays for each school. And I definitely recommend doing this because once I found my 4 main topics, it was easier to write about them. And I would say that finding your topics is kind of half the battle. To talk about my main topics, I again had those 4, and my first one was about language learning. That kind of pointed to my linguistics major, and that's something I am very passionate about and interested in. And then my second one was about writing, again pointing to that English major side, and how that's just something I've been doing throughout my whole life and something I am also very passionate about. And then those 2 also kind of reflected back on my extracurriculars. My third one was, again, as I mentioned before, about the organization I founded and how that has been such a big part of my life in high school, as well as how I wanted to continue fighting against sexual harassment, because that is something that is very important to me in college and further in my life. And then my fourth one, which is actually the one I will not be sharing clips from, that is my kind of personal life, personal story, and that is kind of, you know, a more sensitive thing, but I will be sharing clips from the other 3. So I will start reading. Okay, so I am going to be reading from my Common App personal statement, which is kind of the main essay that colleges are going to look at if you are applying through Common App. And then I'm going to be doing one of my supplementals as well. My Common App personal statement, that includes 3 of the topics I mentioned before. And those topics are my more personal story, which I will not be reading aloud, as well as my love for writing and my love for language learning. Those 3 kind of fit together pretty well into my Common App. And so I was very glad because they are 3 distinctive topics, but they kind of come together and tell a cohesive story about who I am and what I'm interested in, which, as I mentioned multiple times throughout this video, and you're probably sick of me saying, that is, to me, the most important thing you should have in your college application. And then my supplemental will be about my organization. So that topic actually fit a lot of supplementals. So even though I will only be reading one of those essays, you know, just that is a lot of what my supplemental essays reflected. So take that generally. So for my Common App, I am going to be skipping a little bit of this just because it's very personal, but I will walk you through kind of what I put here. I kind of started off with an anecdote, you know, and kind of transitioned to older me. So I talked about when I was a little bit younger and kind of how that has affected me now. And then I kind of related, you know, that to learning languages and how learning languages became a passion of mine. And from that, I transitioned to writing, which I will kind of read a clip of now. A lot of times, I write about situations I can relate to because choosing words to express characters' emotions allows me to find words to express my own. It causes me to sort through the complicated mess of my thoughts and feelings, forcing me to confront them in their raw form with no excuses or reasons. I've developed so much courage throughout high school, but this is the one I'm proudest of. That's why I love writing so much. It's a beautifully messy combination of my heart, mind, and soul. Overall, that is what my courage has allowed me to do. Accept those 3 parts of me exactly as they are. So this is the last paragraph of my essay, and it was kind of a wrap up for my Common App, so you can see how I kind of ended it and tied those 3 together. And it also talks about my writing and my passion for that. My advice for people who don't know what topics they're going to write about, or how to really talk about what they want to talk about, is to really look into the things that have impacted you and shaped you into the person you are now, because that is a lot of what colleges want. They want that passion, but they also want to see how you became the person you are. And so I think by combining those in this essay, that was a good move. As for writing this, Again, I did have someone kind of look over and give me pointers. But honestly, if you don't know what to say, I would go into the voice memos app or open a voice recording and just start talking. Because once you start talking, you kind of fully like yap. And I found from there, you kind of are able to talk about kind of what you want to touch on. And then you're able to like go back and listen and be like, oh, this is a point I want to bring up. This is a point I don't want to bring up, etc. So for my supplemental, I'm choosing to read the UW one because that's where I'm going. Even if you're not applying to UW and you're applying to something else and you want to hear how I wrote about this, it still applies. I don't really want to give away this organization's name just because that would reveal kind of personal things. I'll just go like this whenever I say the name of that organization. And then I'll read the beginning and the ending so you can kind of see how I opened and closed my essay. The UW supplemental prompt is talking about community and kind of what communities you're part of, how you formed community, etc., etc. Schools are supposed to be seen as communities. They're supposed to come together in school spirit and different classes to create an environment where people feel connected. My school is the opposite, a place ridden with sexual harassment and fear of speaking out against it. Now for the closing. Every day is a struggle for better policies and persuading administration to listen to student voices, but is what I'm proudest of. That's what I will bring with me to UW, my fiery passion and dedication to what I believe in. In creating, I created a new community filled with people who come together for something we all believe in. Someday, I hope, can turn my school and school district into a community that I am proud of. So my main tip for writing these kinds of essays about what you really believe in and what you're passionate about is just to say what you mean. I wouldn't focus too much on those like fancy words or structures or anything like that. Honestly, just say what you mean, have just some kind of organization, and say how you feel, because that's what colleges really want to know, and that's what's going to make you seem very genuine from your application. I guess that's my kind of general advice for essays. But overall, that was kind of my application advice. And if you're an incoming senior, good luck. You've got this. I believe in you. And feel free to comment any questions that you have, because I will definitely try to answer them. On that note, I was thinking that I kind of want to make a video on my advice for high school and some of my high school experiences, what to do, what not to do, what I would do again, what I wouldn't do again, and that kind of thing. So let me know if you're interested in that. And then I also am working on a turning 18 video because I just turned 18 a few days ago. That is it for now, and I hope everyone enjoyed. Again, any questions or requests, just comment them down below. And good luck to my incoming seniors. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!